What's going on, everyone? So I'm going to be talking about a little special thing in this video because One Piece hasn't really done it in quite a while since, they've done it the first time. They've only ever done it once, and that's obviously going to be duo leaders. And the only duo leader we've ever gotten was, of course, Zoro Sanji, and that was the starter deck that we got for Blue and Green. It was the very first duo leader that was ever released for One Piece, and they haven't really touched upon it since. However, I've taken the liberty, taken some time out of my free time, took it upon myself to pretty much show, the possibilities of future duo leaders we could get, or just, fan ideas that I could, come up with in my own head. Because I think these characters would be really, really, really perfect as duo leaders because they just make sense. So I made 4 of my own. There's way more you could make that I didn't, like, there's one I didn't make of Roger and Garp because that's technically during God Valley, and we haven't even seen them in God Valley yet. So I can't really think of what pictures to use, or I couldn't really find good pictures to use if they aren't, without them being fan art, right? So, like, I can't really make one of Roger and Garp. However, I can make one of Garp and Sengoku because we have seen them together. Just whether it's in the past, right? It's in a flashback panel, or just them together in general, like in Marineford, or just them joking around in their old age. However, I did choose, sorry the picture's kind of blurry, I could really only find this picture of them in their prime. I wanted to use a picture of them in their prime to when they were actually, major threats. I mean, Garp and Sengoku are still, major threats as of right now, but this is when they were, like, super overpowered because they were in their prime. So I chose them in their prime. It's Monkey D. Garp and Sengoku. I chose to make it black-yellow because I feel like we don't have that color combination as much. And it's a Dawn ×1, so it'll be a 6k leader. I was going to make them a 6k leader normally, but then if you realize they'd be a 7k leader with the ability because you have to attach a Dawn to the leader. And I didn't want to make them a 7k leader because I feel like that'd be overpowered, even though, yes, it is Garp and Sengoku. I didn't want to make 2 7k leaders. I did make one that is 7k, but we'll get to that right after this one. So let's get back to the ability. So Dawn ×1 when attacking, you return 2 cards in your opponent's discard pile to the bottom of their deck and KO one of their characters that cost 2 or less. Then discard 2 cards from your hand and add 1 card from your discard pile to the top or bottom of your life. So it really takes part of the Black's, like, returning side, like how we see in Cypher Pole, and kind of how we see stuff in Gecko Moria, where we kind of reuse the graveyard a bit. Pretty much we're reusing the graveyard to refill our life, not to mention we're KOing something on the opponent's board, and we're taking out some stuff from their graveyard just in case they have a engine in there that takes stuff from their graveyard, like Gecko Moria, or so on and so on, whatever we get in the future. I didn't want to just make it your basic, black, discard a card KO or KO something. I want to kind of make it like stuff we have seen with black, which you don't really see a lot. Of course, I know that's Cypher Pulse thing, but I kind of wanted to just take that ability and use it with something else to make it kind of something new, where we have to return cards from both graveyards, we get to KO something, and we get to, gain a life. So it kind of like takes, inspiration from Black Yellow Luffy, where we gain life from the graveyard, where we discard some cards in order to gain a life. So I kind of we still take the black side of, discarding cards to do an ability. I also took the liberty of taking stuff from Cypher Pole's black side, where we return stuff from the graveyard to do a black ability, which is KO something. So it still kind of fits both colors, and, kind of fits with the leaders in a bit. It's navy, black's known for KOing stuff and all that. I kind of just wanted to make this leader a color combination that wasn't really seen as much, because we technically only have one with Big Mom, or sorry, we have 2 with Kyros. I always forget about Kyros. We technically have 2. So yeah, it's kind of like how we only have 2 with Black Purple, which we'll get into later. But yeah, that's going to be Garp and Sengoku. I would like to see one of them in their prime. And if they ever do make triple color leaders, then we could see one of Garp, Sengoku, and Suru. The original 3 heroes of the Navy, the previous generation. So I did say earlier that I did make a 7k leader, and that's going to be, of course, Gold D. Roger and Edward Newgate. Now, I took the liberties of, having that new info text of, per the rules of the game type stuff. And I made it to where it's kind of balanced to where this character can only attack leaders and can only attack character cards that have a power of 7,000 or more. I didn't want them to just have 7k power. By the way, this would be the first leader with 7k power. But I didn't want them to just be a 7k leader and, be able to just knock out 5k leaders just by one, like 5k characters in one swing. I want to make it somewhat fair. Not to mention, since they're 7K, they only have 3 life. So I'm gonna make that as balanced as I can. I don't want them to be the strongest leader in the game, not have any way, of balancing it. So they can only attack certain powered characters. They can only attack leaders if if your opponent doesn't have 7K power or more characters on board, then they can only attack leader. And they're gonna only have 3 life. It kind of fits too because they both died. They both died early in the story, right? One died of sickness. One had a sickness, but then died by freaking millions of bullet wounds, sword slashes, and war. But anyway, he does have an ability once per turn. Your turn only. You rest one character you control, and add that character's power to another character you control for the turn. So I guess I should also specify that it's archetype locked to Roger Pirates and Whitebeard Pirates. But I kind of don't want to make that happen because we don't have a lot with the Roger Pirates. Like, we really don't. We only have Crocus and Rayleigh. And the reason why I made it red and green is because, Whitebeard only has so much. I know he did get blue, but the blue stuff in Whitebeard kind of don't really work well. They're not really as good as the red stuff. So, and Rayleigh is in the red side, so we're kind of keeping it on stuff that they have playable cards as of right now. And who knows, maybe in the future they'll have some green stuff, but it can work with green stuff. You're resting something, so you could rest one of your reds for another one of your reds, or rest one of your green cards that you don't really need for one of your red cards. Like, you could play the 8-drop Rayleigh, right? You could play the 8-drop Rayleigh, rest that Rayleigh, give it to something else, and then swing with that attack power. Instead of attacking with 2 things, you attack with 1 thing that has like a lot of power. It kind of just like, instead of using rush, you're utilizing a boost pretty much in a type of way. I wanted to give something with rush, but like, that's just Red's whole shtick, right? I don't want to make it the same thing over and over again. I tried making it to where, since it's dual leaders and dual colors, I wanted to try and take elements from both colors. So you're gonna see that ability a lot, to where it kind of relates to both colors. But again, I wanted to make this as balanced as I could. He can only attack characters with 7K power or more. He can only attack leaders. He has 3 less life. He only has 3 life because he's the only leader with 7K. And it kind of just makes sense for them to have 7K because, they're King of the Pirates, literally second to the King of the Pirates. Not to mention he's also in Rock's D-Zabek's crew as one of the main leads. So they're pretty strong. If they can go toe-to-toe to each other, then they deserve 7K. And you could also state that, Garp and Sengoku could be 7K as well. But I want to balance them since they have yellow. They're life manipulating, so I didn't want to make them too overpowered. The same could be said if I made Garp and Roger a leader card. I'd have to find a way to balance them. But again, I can't find a God Valley art for them because we technically haven't seen them in action. So I can't make that a thing yet. And now we have Smoker and Toshigi. Now, Smoker and Toshigi is a card I would like to see, even though we're getting one in OPO 10. It's technically the same thing, but it's Smoker and Toshigi's body. So I made them black-purple because we only have 2, and they both are, one sucks, one's good, and I can't really say if this is better, but like, again, I'm taking stuff from both colors. So once per turn, when a character with navy and their type is played, K up to one of your opponent's characters on the board, and it has to be a cost 3 or less, and then you add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck to your Dawn area rested. So you KO something and rest. You KO and ramp, sorry. And it only works when you play a character with navy in their archetype. So I want to archetype lock it to, of course, navy because it's Smoker and Toshigi. If anyone is so straightforward and to the rules of the book, it's Smoker. So you're gonna be wanting to play archetype lock with this. Not full archetype lock, but you're gonna be wanting playing the main navy characters that do stuff. Not to mention it'll help you ramp if you KO something that costs 3 or less. So, I want to make something cool. Plus, to mention it's like one of the most iconic duos you see all the time in One Piece. You don't ever see them not together unless it's in like a movie. So like, and that's not even canon. So like, you're always gonna see them together, unless it's a movie or it's the most recent arc where Toshigi goes to help rescue Kobe, and that's the only time we've ever seen them not together. So yeah, I just thought this would fit perfectly, and it would make more black purple leaders. Final and last leader that I made, it was Dory and Brogy, and we don't really have a lot with the giants, right? We have, of course, the Dressrosa giant. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Harujin. We have what's it called? John Giant. We just have the normal giants that are from the Navy Corps. And then we have Hachan. I think he's considered a giant. I don't even know. Well, pretty much we don't have a lot of giants. And we don't have a giant leader yet. So, of course, I think the main giant leader should be Dory and Brogy, right? They were the first ones to be shown off in the show and all that. And their main character worth to where, like, they even, you know, they're working with Shanks. And they literally screwed up, what's it called? Kid's attack. And that let Shanks almost take his other arm. So, you know, because of them, he almost took Kid's other arm. And that would have been funny if that happened. But anyway, back to the actual card thing. I think Dory and Brogy will make good giants as leaders. Mostly because, not to mention, if they are made leaders, if they are made into a leader, that means we could see more giant characters that would work in the archetype. Not to mention just better giant characters with better abilities, because we don't really have a lot of giants that have good abilities. So once per turn, you pay 2, you choose 1. You rest one of your characters with 5,000 or more power and KO one of your opponent's characters on the field. So it just KOs a character on your opponent's field. Doesn't matter what cost, doesn't matter what power, but you do have to sacrifice a swing. And then you rest one of your opponent's characters with giants in their type, and you return one character on the field to the bottom of the owner's deck. And so again, I'm making leaders that take abilities from both colors. So 1 KOs and 1 returns. So 1, you know, KO red, return blue, KO control, return control. That's pretty much what it is. However, I didn't want to make it too overpowered because they are 6k power, so I wanted you to have to rest one of your pretty much mid-range swingers, which is a 5k power or more. So like if you only have big bodies, guess what? You're resting a big body just to KO something. You lose that on your big body swing. If you really want to KO something, so like you could pay 2 to KO a blocker. You could pay 2 to KO, you know, something you don't want on the board. Like you don't want a future swing. Or you could rest one of your giants, right? And return a character on the board to the bottom of the deck. And I wanted to make sure it was archetype locked for that one, because I just wanted to, you know, touch more into the Giants archetype side, because you don't really see that at all in the game, to be honest. So I kind of want to just make stuff for characters we don't see a lot. Not to mention, I want to see more variety in the game with characters and archetypes we don't see a lot to begin with. So again, there's so many more characters you can do in the show and in the manga that could be duo leaders, and it's really sad that Bandai Namco hasn't touched on the duo leaders, you know, mechanic since Zoro and Sanji, right? And it's not even a mechanic; it's just like a leader card that has 2 characters. Like it's not a new mechanic; it's still a leader. It just has 2 characters on it. We just haven't seen more of that when there's so many characters in the show that can be a duo leader. Like imagine Gaimon and his little girlfriend. Imagine that. That's a duo leader right there. But that's just a joke, obviously. But hey, it can be, right? Like there's so many things you could do with the characters in the show to make duo leaders, and just cool art in general. Like imagine if we got an alt art of the Zoro Sanji as duo leaders. Like that would have been sick. So if they ever make duo leaders again, whether it be in a starter deck or in an OP set, like just a normal booster set, which means we could possibly get an alternate art version of it, would be really cool to see, because again, we've only ever seen once, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who would like to see them go back into duo leaders, because I think it's just an untapped market to see cool card art on a leader, just in general in the game, because, you know, we've only ever seen it in one leader, and we've seen it in one character card, which is Kaido and Linlin too. So just come on, Bandai Namco, tap into it more, because you're just sitting on free money you don't want at that point, in my opinion. But yeah, that's it. I don't want to rant on anymore. That's gonna be it for this video. If you like the ideas I made for the duo leaders, don't take the abilities to heart, right? I just tried to come up with something because I didn't want to make the card art blank. I wanted to just, you know, make the card and not make it blank for the whole video. So they have abilities because of that. But if you have any more ideas on how duo leaders could become a thing, by all means, you know, go to the Discord, go to the custom art page in the Discord, and just look at the other stuff, post your own things, because I know that's where I'm going to be posting my stuff, and just showing off how much stuff Bandai Namco could be tapping into, and they're just not doing it. But again, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you whenever I make next.